all principal secretaries, chairpersons, and chief executive officers of our state corporations and agencies, representatives of our development partners and diplomatic corps, honored guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. This state ceremony is convened to foster the realization of the ethos espoused in Article 10 of the Constitution on our national values and principles of governance, and in keeping with the administration's pledge to lead an open, transparent, and accountable government. In affirmation of our shared commitment to upholding those national values and principles of governance, the signing of ministerial performance contracts for the financial year 2023-2024 is today witnessed by the leadership of the other two arms of government. Your Excellency, sir, in a historic undertaking, each ministry's performance contract will be witnessed by the primary committee of the National Assembly. This new practice demonstrates the administration's resolve to the people of Kenya for the use of their taxes and resources, and creating new traditions and precedents that deepen good governance practices in public affairs. Sir, the performance contract that ministries will sign today collectively embody the commitment the administration has made to the people of Kenya as set out in the bottom-up economic. As a prerequisite to this ceremony, the performance contracts are aligned with the resources as appropriated in the financial year 2023-2024 budget to each ministry. Therefore, seek Your Excellency's permission to call upon the ministries to sign their respective performance contracts, and thereafter for Your Excellencies to witness the commitments made by the ministries as part of the social contract we have made with the people of Kenya. With Your Excellency's kind indulgence, permit me now to invite His Excellency Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, accompanied by the Principal Secretaries in his office, to sign the performance contracts. The portfolio's performance contract will be witnessed by the Leader of Majority. Welcome, Madam Prime Cabinet Secretary and the PSS. Next in line, Your Excellency, is State Law Office, Honorable Attorney General John Justin B. Muturi, to be witnessed thereof by Shadrach Mose, and in the presence of Honorable John Kitonga Murugara. He has arrived. Your Excellency, next in line is Honorable Aden Duale, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Defense, in witness whereof by Honorable Patrick Mariru, and if the General is there to come. Your Excellency, the next is Professor Juguna Ndungu, Cabinet Secretary, Judge of National Treasury, Economic Planning, accompanied by Dr. Chris Kipton, Mr. James B. Muhati, and Honorable Francis Kuria Kimani. Your Excellency, next in line is Honorable Aisha Jumwa, Katana, Ministry of Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action, witnessed by Amos N. Katesia and Ms. Veronica Nduva, and in the presence of Honorable Eric Mushangi Karemba. Next is Honorable Alfred N. Mutua, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, accompanied by Dr. Sinoe Roslyn Jogu, in the presence of Nelson Koech. Your Excellency, next is Honorable Alice Wahome, CS, Minister of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation, to be accompanied by Dr. Paul Rono and Efantas in the presence of Honorable David Kangogo Powen. Excellency, next in line is Honorable Simon K. Chelugui, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Cooperatives, Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises Development, accompanied by Patrick K. Kilemi, Susan Mangeni, in the presence of Honorable James Mwangi Kakuya. Next in line, Your Excellency, is Honorable Soipan Tuya, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry, accompanied by Festus Ngeno and Gitonga Mugambi, in the presence of Honorable David Kikaria, Vice President. Next, Your Excellency, is Susan Nakumicha Wafula, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Health, to be accompanied by Harry Kimutai and Mary Mudhoni Muriuki, in the presence of Honorable Dr. Robert Pukose. Please allow. Next in line, Your Excellency, is Honorable Ezekiel Mashogu, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Education, accompanied by Dr. Belio Kipsang, Dr. Esther Moria, and Dr. Beatrice Inyangala Muganda, in the presence of Honorable Julius Meli. Next in line, Your Excellency, is Honorable Rebecca Miano, accompanied by Abdi Dubat Fido, Idris Salim Dakota, in the presence of Peter Lochakabong. Next in line, Your Excellency, is Honorable Mithika Linturi, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Agriculture and Livestock Development, to be accompanied by Philip K.R. Sama, Honorable Jonathan Mweke, in the presence of Honorable John Kanyuitia. Next in line, Your Excellency, is Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Roads and Transport, to be accompanied by Engineer Joseph Mbugwa, Mr. Mohamed Dakar, in the presence of Honorable George Masharia Kariuki. Next in line, Your Excellency, is Mr. Eliud Owalo, Ministry of Information, Communications and the Digital Economy, to be accompanied by Professor Edward Kisiangani, Engineer Tonui, in the presence of Honorable John Kiarie Waweru. Next in line, Your Excellency, is Honorable Florence Kaibore, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Labor and Social Protection, to be accompanied by Mr. Geoffrey Kaituko and Mogosi Motari, in the presence of Honorable Alice Wambui Nganga. Next, Your Excellency, is Honorable Ababu Namwamba, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Youth Affairs, the Arts and Sports. Be accompanied by Ismail Maalim Madei, Engineer Peter Tum, in the presence of Honorable Daniel Wanyama Sitati. So next in line, Your Excellency, is Mr. Sakaria Mwangi Njeru, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development, to be accompanied by Honorable Generali Korir Nixon, Mr. Charles Hinga Mwaura, Mr. Joel, in the presence of Honorable Joash Nyamache Nyamoko. Next in line, Your Excellency, is Honorable Penina Malonza, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage, to be accompanied by John Lekakeny Ololtua, Ms. Musaiya Sylvia Kehoro, and Ms. Umi Mohamed Bashir, in the presence of Honorable Chavet Kareke Mbuki. Your Excellency, next in line is Honorable Davis Kaichirchir, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Energy and Petroleum, to be accompanied by Mr. Alex K. Washira and Mohammed Liban, in the presence of Honorable Vincent Mushoka Musau. Your Excellency, last but not least, is Honorable Sir Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs, accompanied by PS Jake Mwangi, Ms. Betsy Jagi, and Mr. Shadrach Madini, in the presence of Honorable David Gikaria and Honorable David Transhobo Owen. So, Your Excellency, that marks the end of our part one of this ceremony. I would request Your Excellency to retreat your seat for part two to begin. And have your seat. So, Your Excellency, sir, as part of the organization of government, you are assigned the monumental task of steering the coordination of the institutional framework to support in the delivery of your agenda for the country to the Prime Cabinet Secretary. It is now my distinct honor to invite the Prime Cabinet Secretary to make his remarks and thereafter progress the day's program. Welcome, Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, Your Excellency, the Deputy President, before I make some short remarks, let me take this moment, with your permission, to invite the UN Resident Coordinator as we cooperate on matters of development in the country. Dr. Steve Jackson.
Mheshimiwa Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya, Mheshimiwa Naibu Rais, Mheshimiwa Waziri Mkuu, mawaziri, mabalozi, viongozi, waheshimiwa, marafiki, hamjambo. Kama methali ya Kiswahili inavyosema, atendaye njema atalipwa zizo, which I'm going to twist a little to mean that good performance will be recognized. Permit me, Mheshimiwa, just to make 5 brief points on behalf of the United Nations and the development partners. The first is to say that anywhere in the world, a highly performant public service is essential to guarantee the effective provision of basic services to the people and a propitious climate for sustainable development. And in Kenya, one of the foundations of your Vision 2030 is an efficient, motivated, and professional public service. And indeed, the Constitution, your Constitution, states that a public service that is efficient, performance or results-oriented, and citizen-focused must be ensured. So, second point, Mheshimiwa, the step your government has taken today is greatly more than symbolic. Today, your government is signing a solemn promise with you, Mr. President, and through you, a promise with Kenya's people, because it is Kenya's people, of course, that its government and its officials serve. The Kenyan people need and deserve a truly 21st century government and public service, laser-focused on delivery, on that famous deliverology that we all talk about, and free from any blemish of bad governance. And that's why supporting public service reform has been and continues to be central to the support of a large number of Kenya's development partners, including the very many partner members of the governance group. So, Mheshimiwa, third point. For United Nations Kenya, we've been supporting public sector reform since 2006 in multiple ways, led by the United Nations Development Programme, but joining together the efforts of very many other UN entities. We've collectively continued to partner and collaborate with key institutions, such as the Ministry of Public Service and the Kenya School of Government. And some highlights of that work have included, indeed, helping to institutionalize performance contracting across the ministries, the departments, and the agencies, and supporting the transformation of the former Kenya Institute of Administration into the Kenya School of Government, and supporting it with South-South and international cooperation. And I know I speak on behalf of all the development partners, Mheshimiwa, when I say that we look forward to continuing this journey with you. fourth point, penultimate point. Of course, in line with Kenya's devolution journey, effective public sector delivery also has to be ensured below the national level, at the devolved, empowered county level. And since 2017, UN Kenya and many development partners, including particularly Sweden, Finland, and Italy, working directly with the UN, have collectively supported the Ministry of Public Service and the Council of Governors to help develop the county performance management framework. That was adopted by the COG in 2018, county governments then adopted in 2019, and today most county governments also have a full performance contract cycle. As I close, Mheshimiwa Rais, my last point is about us, the development partners. A word on the efficiency, effectiveness, and performance of your development partners. We also owe you a performance contract. Along with my brother, the ambassador of the Netherlands, as United Nations Resident Coordinator, I've recently had the honor to become the co-chair of the Kenya Development Partners Group. And ensuring the efficiency and the effectiveness and the performance of the support that the development partners provide is something that is very dear to our hearts. Excellency, prior to your election, you and I spoke of the importance that you attach to a proper and regular structure of dialogue with the development partners. And getting that structure of dialogue with the partners up and running is something that will really ensure that performance contract between us and you. So we're performing in the way that the government and the people need us to. So we're looking forward very much to building and operating that new structure of development partner dialogue with you and with your government as a matter of priority. So Mheshimiwa, hongera kwa hatua hiyo muhimu iliyopigwa leo. Na asanteni sana. Excuse me, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Steve Jackson. Your Excellency, we also have a brief remark from the Chairperson of the Council of Governors, Honorable Anne Waiguru, but I believe she has a representative, if she has not arrived yet. Governor Lusaka, on behalf of the governors.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Cabinet Ministers, PSs, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Chair, who should be around, quite a number who are caught at the gate, Your Excellency, because of traffic, but power abhors a vacuum, and I know they are somewhere, they are held. So on behalf of the Council, Your Excellency, I want just to thank you and congratulate you for this very momentous moment for us. What is measured gets done. And having served as a permanent secretary before, I know what performance contracting means. This is an agreement on what is going to be delivered by the ministries. And during our period, Your Excellency, we never had it colorful the way it is today. I'm sure this is a milestone, and as a council, we are also going to support. We are also doing the same in the counties. We're also signing performance contracting with our own teams for us to be able to perform. So on behalf of the council, I just want to say thank you and wish all those who have signed their performance contracts, please let it not just end at the signing, but implement what you have signed. May God bless you. Thank you.
Your Excellency, let me note that apart from Steve Jackson, we have, I think, one or two other members of the diplomatic corps. If they are here, they can just rise where they are. Members of the diplomatic corps who had joined us for this particular session. Your Excellency, apart from those who have executed the contracts today, we also have members of independent commissions If they can also rise where they are. Thank you. We acknowledge you. Asante sana. Your Excellency, you also have the chairs of various boards and their CEOs. If you can rise where you are. Wow. Asanteni sana, tafadhali. We also have the chairs of the councils of the universities and the VCs. If they are present, they can also rise. Asanteni sana. We also have the various legislators who came in, heads of committees. If they are present, again, you can rise, the ones who made it. Thank you for representing the Parliament. I believe I have covered a cross-section of those who are in attendance. Your Excellency, without going through all the protocols, let me just very quickly make some few remarks and then invite the Deputy President to invite you. But of course, one of the things I've learned from Lusaka is that I think one of the things we need to learn in our performance contract is to beat the traffic. Now that our President is spot on time, then we just have to learn to navigate the traffic. Your Excellency, it is my singular pleasure to thank you for accepting to preside over this auspicious occasion for the signing of the ministerial performance contracts for the financial year 2023-2024. Your Excellency, Kenya's overall development agenda, as espoused in the Vision 2030, is dependent on a public service that is citizen-focused, results-oriented, efficient, motivated, and foremost corruption-free. Consequently, the government has adopted strategic initiatives based on the aspirations of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, better derived from the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. The aim is to capitalize on the gains already made from implementation of public sector reforms to spur socio-economic development. Performance contracting is one of the fundamental performance management tools being implemented in the public service. This prized tool has been implemented continuously for the last 19 years, and its full entrenchment will ensure the realization of our country's long-term economic development goals. Your Excellency, the first-level performance contracts are signed annually between yourself and the respective cabinet secretaries, and thereafter cascaded to downstream institutions. These contracts provide linkages between planning, budgeting, and clear deliverables. It is worth noting that the performance contracts being signed today are the first under your administration. There is excitement that your administration has aligned budgets to specific programs and projects under the medium-term plan 4, which is better sector priorities. This ensures synergy between budgetary resources and specific targeted deliveries. The introduction of performance contracts in the public service gives credence to the urge, which has been referred to, what gets measured gets done. Adoption of performance contracts by ministries, departments, and agencies establishes uniformity, consistency, and objectivity in measuring public service performance. Sustained implementation of the contracts should enable public institutions to refocus on improving institutional governance and efficient use of public resources, leading to effective service delivery as demanded by us by the Constitution. Your Excellency, Executive Order Number 1 of 2023 entrusts my office with coordination of performance management in the public service. Since then, I have made several promissory pronouncements regarding the public service we envision for Kenya. Today, I will restrict myself to presenting a report leading to today's event. The first port of call was to register re-engineer performance management through tested strategic initiatives. First, the performance contracting process has been automated through the development and rolling out of the Government Performance Contracting Information System. This has made the process fully web-based and therefore set to minimize the need for lengthy interpersonal interventions and consequently saving valuable management time. Second, my office has initiated the development of a public service management bill that seeks to streamline and standardize performance management in the public sector. It will provide a framework for rewarding meritocracy and performance while fawning on ineptitude and discouraging non-performance. I must add that this is the first time public service management will be anchored in law. The optimal deployment of the human resource in the public service will gain immensely from this bill, as it intends to give legal backing to officers who toil without reward or promotion. Your Excellency, even as we demand optimal output from our public service, we must urgently cure it of lack of career progression and almost lifelong acting in positions. Your Excellency, it is evident that acting in a position for long durations demotivates public service officers. Third, we are currently in the process of developing a public participation bill jointly with the AG's office that aims to reinforce the positive transformation brought about by the 2010 Constitution of Kenya. It proposes to establish clear standards for effective public participation and to create a robust framework for the management and coordination of public participation initiatives throughout Kenya. Cognizance of the constitutional principles and values of governance, the proposed bill seeks to place the citizens at the heart of governance processes, thereby ultimately promoting more inclusive and accountable governance. By doing so, we aim to strengthen the state-society relations and ensure that the voices of citizens are actively considered in decision-making processes. Your Excellency, the background to this is that in tandem with performance management, public sector reforms are vital to a government that is responsive, efficient, and citizen-centric. These reforms aim to transform our public institutions, streamline processes, eliminate bureaucratic hurdles, and enhance governance and service delivery. It is clear in my mind that by undertaking these reforms, we are creating an enabling environment that fosters economic growth, attracts investments, and improves the quality of life for all Kenyans. However, to effectively implement performance management, productivity mainstreaming, and public sector reforms, we must adopt a multifaceted approach, embracing a culture of continuous learning, professionalism, and perfection will enhance effectiveness and efficiency in MDAs. For this reason, we will ensure regular monitoring, evaluation, and reporting of progress. This will enable us to identify areas in need of improvement and take corrective actions. Furthermore, transformation of performance management will create efficiency through investment in state-of-the-art technologies, providing training and capacity building opportunities. It will augment a culture of collaboration and knowledge sharing and shear off this existing silo mentality. By harnessing the power of digital transformation, we can automate processes, reduce redundancies, and maximize productivity. This brings me to the issue of corruption. Your Excellency, the public is tired of our persistent appeals, pleas, demonstrations, and threats against corruption. It is time to act and act decisively to end this scourge, especially the temptations in the public service. As the executive, we are ready to do our bit. The Auditor General, the control of budget, churn out disturbing revelations about blatant theft of public resources. These reports are invariably confirmed by Parliament. The question is, where is the missing link in bringing culprits to account? Your Excellency, we must require all agencies in the criminal justice system to save us the agony. They must do Kenyans justice and this is not weaponizing state agencies against anyone. All we are asking them to do is work without doubt, fear, or favor. Your Excellency, your firm hand here is most critical. My office coordinated a stakeholders forum to review the performance contracting guidelines. There was unanimous consensus that we refocus MDA's performance contracts to deliver more on their core mandates. As a consequence, MDAs are now required to include in their performance contracts the following indicators that are core to the government's transformative agenda: digitalization of government services to accelerate the adoption of ICT in service delivery; 2, productivity mainstreaming to entrench a culture of performance and productivity to enable MDAs measure the efficiency and effectiveness of resource utilization to realize maximum output with fewer inputs; and 3, implementation of the Presidential Directive on National Tree Growing Restoration Campaign to accelerate the growth of 15 billion trees for restoration of 10.6 million hectares by 2032. This is also expected to increase Kenya's forest and tree cover from the current 12% to 30% by 2022. Your Excellency, today's ceremony marks a key milestone for our administration. The implementation of the performance contracts will ensure that the commitments that you made to our people are realized. May it also interest you to note that the performance contracts that we have signed with you have been deliberately designed to incorporate the priority programs and projects contained in the 4th Medium-Term Plan, MTP4, 2023-2027, and the National Development Priorities in the 5 better sectors to be implemented by MDAs during this financial year. The remaining performance contracts will be finalized, signed, and cascaded to other levels to facilitate timely implementation of commitments captured in the contracts for this financial year. May I thank all the Cabinet Secretaries, Principal Secretaries, Chairpersons, and Executive Officers of state corporations and development partners for supporting the entrenchment of performance management in the public service. I assure you that I have not taken your support for granted, and it will not be in vain. In conclusion, Your Excellency, I do recognize your immense support in the institutionalization of performance management in the public service, which is core to the realization of a citizen-centric public service. I thank you. It is now my singular pleasure to invite Your Excellency, the Deputy President, to make your remarks and thereafter invite His Excellency, the President.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, my cabinet colleagues and the principal secretaries and all the senior people here today, good morning. Your Excellency, I don't have a written speech because this contract is a serious thing. And you need to think very through what you have signed. And Your Excellency, on behalf of this team and those who work under you, I want to thank you for the privilege to serve. Among 50 million Kenyans, you chose a few of us, very few in terms of percentage, to assist you in the management of the affairs of this country. Your Excellency, you have a very high expectation of all of us, just like the people of Kenya have. The President of the Republic of Kenya, seated here today, signed a 5-year contract with the people of Kenya, subject to renewal on performance and subject to termination on non-performance. As a Deputy President and Principal Assistant, I can tell you today the president has no intention whatsoever to have his contract terminated by the people of Kenya. His very intention is to have it renewed, and therefore those working under him must perform and perform efficiently. So on a day like this, what I have seen this morning, I'm a bit worried. The day you are signing performance contracts is a very important day because it marks the beginning of performance. Mimi najua ni mzee hii boma hapa ya nyumba kumi hapa kwa hii Ikulu. Nataka nimwambie siri kidogo tu, especially those of us who came with the president from the political space and who are his friends, and we assisted him to become president. Once he gives us a job, that is the termination of that friendship. The friendship with the president will be based on nothing but performance. Performance. And me, I know. Mimi masomo yangu yuko chini kidogo, lakini I know a few things. Mimi, I know my relationship with the president is not based on my 20-year friendship with him, and I assisted him in the campaigning. It is based on performance. And I know if I don't perform, that relationship will be strained. I want to urge you today when he's here, please perform. Perform. Because the president has a performance contract with the people of Kenya, and it is your performance that will assist him to fulfill that contract. So let us all do what we have to do, and let us be efficient. When I joined the Kenya School of Administration, in those years we were taught the worst style in management is management by crisis, known as firefighting. That is what most of us have been doing. You wait until the last minute, there's a deadline, is when you are running around. Your Excellency, before I call you, I just wanted to comment about one matter. Last week, you took a decision to limit foreign trips by all these people sitting here to a certain number in a year, which is very unfortunate. That should not have been the case. People should have regulated themselves to travel when it is necessary. But because of the opulence, that all ministers and PSs were out of the country most of the time, the president had to put a stop and say you can only do so much. And sometimes I wonder, why do you have to honor every invitation that you have been given to every country? Your Excellency, at times we have tried to hold cabinet committees, we can't. 5, 6, 7, 8 ministers are out of the country. Some change clothes at the airport from one country to another. That is the truth. Why can't you regulate yourself? If the president was to travel and honor every invitation, he will be out of this country the whole year. You just have to decide what is useful, and other things you can leave to our ambassadors out of the country. Please let the president not limit your travel. Just be responsible. You have a work to do, and the work is here in Kenya. Again, Your Excellency, we have done so much as an administration, but the information is not out there. Our ministers are quiet. They are called for TV interviews, they don't show up to say what they have done. And then the media have a field day because nobody talks for government. I would rather we spend more time explaining to the people of Kenya what we have done in our respective dockets as opposed to travel. And if we have to travel, let's travel up country to where wananchi are and explain what we are doing. I don't think the president will cap your travel out of Nairobi. I don't think he will. I don't think he will. So mimi nimemwibia siri tu kidogo kama mzee nyumba kumi hapa. Nimeona watu wale wamechelewa, nikaona rais unaniona ninamjua. Nikaona uso yake nikajua hapa kimeumana. Sababu leo ni siku ya performance contract. Ile siku muhimu sana ya kuja kuweka. Na wewe umefika pale rais anakaa. tayari amekaa na ndiye rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Wewe umechelewa ukiwa kuona nani? Who else have you gone to see? These are things myself I don't understand. As I said, mimi sielewi. Mimi mambo ingine sielewi. So mimi boss nachunga kazi yangu. Unajua rais, tangu uniteue, I've been late in your meeting one day only. Na rais, wewe ndio ulinichanganya siku hiyo. Because ulisema utatoka hapa saa 1:30 tukutane airport saa 2, ukatoka saa 12:30. Sasa by the time nimefika nikakuta umeketi. And I was embarrassed because where else was I when my boss is seated waiting? Where else would I be? How do you explain where uko wapi? Rais amekaa, you work for him, he has arrived before you. I don't understand. I don't know how you plan, but hata kama iko traffic jam, hii traffic jam haijakuja Kenya leo, inajulikana tangu zamani. Mimi nilifika hapa saa 1:30, PM alifika hapa saa 1:30 na mkutano ulikuwa saa 3. Not because we have no work to do. Si hakuna haja kuamuka hii masaa na hii baridi, tungelala. Lakini tunakuja kwa rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya, who has given us a job, who is very busy. Wewe utachelewa ukiwa wapi? So those are things, as you sign these contracts, you need to think about. But I want to assure you, from what nimesikia asubuhi hii, from today, tufanye kazi. Marafiki wa rais wa zamani, tufanye kazi. Kipimo ni kazi peke yake. Mimi nimesikia na mimi nakubaliana na rais, kazi. Let us work. Let us do what we need to do to help the president. And he has set the pace. Let us follow the leader, because he is the leader. If his pace is to keep time, let's keep time. If his pace is to work hard, is to work hard. If his pace is to go up country and explain to the people, let us go and explain to the people. Mimi nimesema yangu, nitamtafuta individually, pahali niona iko shida nimueleze. With those few remarks, I request you to be upstanding and help me usher in the President of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Let's take our seats. Asanteni sana. Mr. Deputy President, Prime Cabinet Secretary, Ministers, PSS, our good ambassadors, the representation of the Council of Governors, the representation of Parliament present, chairs of parastatals and CEOs, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I welcome you to this very important occasion of signing our performance contracts. As has been said, the people of Kenya are the ultimate employers of all of us. They pay our salaries, they pay our allowances, and because they do, they legitimately demand of us that we meet our commitments, that the program that we sold to the people of Kenya, we keep, we perform, we implement, and we actualize what we committed ourselves to. Let me say that before I make my statement, that there are two fundamental things that I want us, the people who are the senior-most members of our administration, that we have a historic moment as a country to make Kenya the great country that we always wanted it to be. We've discussed, there's been many analogies as to what countries that started with us. We've discussed about Malaysia, we've discussed about Singapore, we've discussed about the Asian tigers, and we have made all manner of references, I want to say that this is the historic moment for Kenya to be the great nation that we always wanted it to be. And history has given us the opportunity, those of us seated here, to be the men and the women that will bring the greatness of our country to where it is and to where it should be. It's a very defining moment from where I sit, because I see the great opportunity for our country. And that is why, for the first time in Kenya, we are in the midst of the most vigorous national debate in our nation's democratic history. For a few years now, the cost of living has been an oppressive yoke around the necks of most Kenyans, and its most punitive effects have been felt by vulnerable people, most of them at the bottom of our economic pyramid. The COVID-19 pandemic, for example, not only brought home the intense local impact of tremendous external shocks occasioned by disruption of international supply chains and markets, it also revealed the limitations of the prevailing economic model and exposed the full extent of the nexus between the state and citizens. For those who had jobs, majority of whom were in the informal sector, the prices of essential commodities rose beyond the purchasing power of their incomes, demonstrating the precarity of the majority of our people's livelihoods, and serious illness brought with it the ever-present threat of poverty arising from exorbitant medical costs. Although there was opportunity to use the COVID-19 downtime to increase agricultural productivity, subsidizing farm inputs was not a priority compared to vendor-driven pandemic-related expenditure, which eventually failed due to wastage, corruption, non-performance, and delays. Other measures and programs undertaken during this time exacerbated the suffering of Kenyans at the bottom and made many people question the priorities of their government. This was the beginning of the national conversation that subsists to this minute and has anchored robust engagements which defined the last election and subsequent political and policy discourse. The primary bone of contention is, who does the government work for? An old and favored approach to answering this question was to pledge to do more, in fact, much more, of the same old policies, programs, projects, and interventions that have failed at such a high cost that poverty, unemployment, and underdevelopment are actually intolerable. The other option was to embrace a bold new vision and undertake ambitious interventions aimed at transforming the country's economy by creating jobs, increasing incomes, while ensuring that food, shelter, and health are available to everyone, especially those of us who are not privileged. I say this in reflection because a trend was created that using other people's money, which is debt, is a very innovative way of delivering government programs, which is the biggest fallacy, because as a result of using other people's money and contracting debt left, right, center, front and back, we drove our country almost to the brink of debt distress. And it became our first assignment to steady the economy of our country and to pull back our country from going over the cliff. I am very proud today that almost a year in, our economy has steadied. I am very proud today that the interventions that we have taken, though not popular, though very painful, but I want to say here, they have paid off. Today, our country is on fairly sound economic footing. And our decision to do more around collecting our own taxes, to do more about living within our means, and to borrow less, and to work on our fiscal deficit, I must admit, has paid off better than I even thought myself. And I want to thank the people of Kenya for having confidence in the measures that we have taken. We engage Kenyans all over the length and breadth of our country on the most urgent priorities and the best ways and means of implementing them. Ultimately, it became clear that the new approach to national development was not only going to be ambitious and visionary, it was also going to be radical and transformative. To begin with, the plan was going to turn the national development agenda upside down. From the traditional top-down model that is essentially elite-centric to a bottom-up model that is citizen-centric and people-centered. Secondly, the model would aim to positively impact millions of Kenyans at the bottom by focusing interventions where the greatest number find their livelihoods, which is the informal sector, and especially agriculture and the hustler economy. Thirdly, a new model will entail measures to not only create millions of jobs and increase incomes, but also reduce the cost of living by mitigating the cost of energy, transport, shelter, healthcare, as a share of household incomes. We agreed with Kenyans that to deliver this transformative model, 5 sectors would form the core pillars of our agenda to bring down the cost of living, eradicate hunger, create jobs, expand the tax base, improve our foreign exchange balance, and deliver inclusive growth, and to do so from the bottom up. These sectors are agriculture, micro and small medium enterprise economy, affordable housing, universal healthcare coverage, and digital superhighway with a creative economy. These form the pillars of Better, our plan, the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which sets out my performance contract with the people of Kenya that I entered on behalf of all of us to be delivered by the entire government. The terms of the contract are fairly straightforward. In return for paying their due taxes in a timely fashion, the citizens of this country not only expect but are entitled to receive the benefits of all government services in a prompt and satisfactory manner. By virtue of our governing mandate, we are committed to the performance of our part of the contract, and so in full. I have talked to many Kenyans as I travel out of my office. I was in Murang'a the other day, and speaking to ordinary people, they have confirmed that they do not want their country saddled with unnecessary punitive debts. They were very clear to me. And they have committed that, yes, they are going to pay taxes, but they demand, and rightfully so, delivery of every service that is due to them, and that nobody steals their money. That they were unequivocal. The robust national debate over the bottom-up economics demonstrated that the people of Kenya are highly engaged with the policies that affect their interests and are ready to give good policies a chance. The animation which characterized national and parliamentary debate over Finance Act is, in my view, had more to do with the absence of a consistent culture of promise-keeping in our politics and of faithful alignment between government policy and the people's aspirations. As a result, there are Kenyans who do not even believe that a government has an obligation to deliver its pledges and view manifestos and campaign platforms as empty political performances and meaningless tricks and noise. You know, because for a very long time, we've made campaign pledges to be what you say looking for votes when you don't actually mean to deliver on them. In fact, there are even leaders, including members of the clergy, who have been sympathetic and tried, with the best intentions, to suggest ways of enabling the government and myself to run away from some of the commitments we made in the campaigns. Some clergy have said, I think it's okay. You made a promise, but it's difficult to keep, so just, you know. And it's because of the culture that has been built. Many people did not believe that we are going to have a hustler fund. Many people did not believe that we are going to reduce the cost of fertilizer. Many people did not believe that we are going to hire 55,000 teachers in under 1 year, because commitments, promises have been made with no intention to keep any of those promises. And I see the difficulty that people have when we have to make difficult decisions. They think that we have overcommitted ourselves. I want to tell the people of Kenya, the commitments we made, the promises we made, we will keep each and every one in full. Some Kenyans are even suspicious that we are implementing revenue measures without any intention to deliver any public services at all, let alone the elaborate agenda that we have set out. While I appreciate the goodwill and concern, I wish to state in no uncertain terms, in order to clear any confusion and to give comfort to all Kenyans, that this administration is committed, fully committed, to the implementation of the pledges and commitments contained in our bottom-up economic transformation agenda plan. We promised that our government would defend the Constitution and constitutionalism, institutionalize issue-based, performance-oriented politics, and implement better our plan. We shall not run away from any of the commitments therein. We will keep them. This is the context in which we have negotiated, developed, and are today going to witness the signing of the first generation of ministerial performance contract for the financial year 2023-2024. Performance contracting in the government of Kenya is now in its 20th year of continuous implementation, and over that time, the performance contracts have evolved into a robust tool employed by government for measuring the performance of ministries, departments, and agencies in serving the people of Kenya. I don't know whether it is because these performance contracts have been going on for 20 years that many people maybe mistakenly think that it is a ritual. And that is why people resort to the old incompetent excuses that there was traffic, for them not to be in a public, the most important public function. We have a job because we have a contract. If you cannot keep time with your employer, you have basically dismissed yourself. I mean, it's just as simple as that. So, for those who came late, who are members of the executive, I will be expecting a written explanation, and it should not include matters of traffic, on why they do not take these performance contracts seriously. Because if you do not take this performance contracting seriously, it means we do not take the contract with the people of Kenya on performance seriously. And that can be a very serious indictment on anybody. The performance contracts framework has also been critical in enabling government identify, collect, collate, and analyze vital information connected with the performance of public agencies. The overall result of this is that government decision-making has become increasingly evidence-based, and public officers have become increasingly aware of their accountability for actions and omissions, achievements, and mistakes. We have resolved to enhance the overall performance management framework and to leverage its tremendous potential by incorporating the actualization of the better plan, the government performance contracting and delivery mechanism. Our objective is to achieve the highest levels of efficiency and effectiveness in the delivery of public services, ensure accountability in the utilization of public resources, improve the mechanisms of service delivery, realign public agencies with their core mandates, and accelerate the completion of programs and projects. We are here to declare our intention to implement our commitments, serve Kenyans, and to do so in a highly systematic manner. Our performance shall be robust. Our purpose is to make sure that the stewardship of public authority and resources will be responsible, transparent, and accountable. We desire to actualize the twin mandates of citizens' rights and government's obligation by governing well in a people-centric, results-oriented manner. We have made sure that every ministry, department, and agency has aligned their performances and policies with the fourth medium-term plan of the Kenya National Vision 2030, which now incorporates key government priorities under the 5 better pillars. It is now a fundamental duty of cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, chief executive officers of state corporations, and the principals of tertiary education institutions to implement obligations under their performance contracts by taking every measure to execute key government priorities on time and with the allocated resources. In keeping with our commitment to deliver, the performance contracts have been perfected through a rigorous process of vetting key priorities and ring-fencing their funding through the National Treasury. Every instrument that shall be derived from these contracts for implementation by MDAs must replicate this model, and it shall be the duty of cabinet secretaries to ensure full implementation and conformity. As I stated in April, during the launch of Performance Evaluation Report, performance management shall be implemented throughout government, and no public institution funded through the Exchequer will be exempt. You will recall that in our manifesto, we set out the principles that would guide the implementation framework of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which is prioritization, sequencing, and financing. Today, we are translating this aspiration to actionable instruments and at the same time unpacking them into the following commitments. Absorption of allocated funds, including externally mobilized resources. And we have indicated in the performance contract, which every minister has a copy, and I also have a copy. So it will be easy for us to know who is doing what and who is not doing whatever. Measures to reduce the levels of pending bills. You know what we need to do about pending bills. Digitization of government services. I already asked every minister, every PS to make sure their ministries, state departments, parastatals, agencies under them work with the ministry responsible, ICT and Interior, to make sure that we move all government services to the digital platform for purposes of efficiency, for purposes of ease of delivery of those services, and making sure that all public resources are accountable, are accounted for. I do not expect that in the next 90 days, before the end of this year, I do not expect any government service to continue in the manual framework. I do not expect. Every government service must be not just on the digital platform, it must be delivered on the digital platform. From first, today, I do not expect any other pay bill for any government agency except what we agreed, government pay bill that will be manned by Treasury. I hope we are all clear. We did agree that all other pay bills will be shut down. And if there will be one that will be operating after today, let me not say beyond that, right? Because for purposes of efficiency, we are on a digital platform so that there are no lost files, there are no gray areas, there are no corners that is gathering dust. We want to make sure that we can demonstrate productivity. It's also important that we complete projects. We have projects in ministries, in state departments that are 20 years old. I told the Ministry of Housing, we have markets, 180 markets that were started 15 years ago under the ESP program. We have now committed resources this year. All those markets should be completed as a priority in the next 1 year. All those markets should be ready. Matters environment are going to be front and center of what we will be doing as well. So the National Tree Cover Restoration Campaign is part of the delivery of every ministry and state department. We are looking forward to working on internship and industrial attachment. Again, the ministry concerned, we have agreed on what to do. This was our intention 5 years ago, but it was not delivered because of the old culture of making commitments that we didn't have any intention to keep. On internships this time around, we must keep our commitment. I have already engaged the private sector. We have agreed. Government is going to deliver progressively to 20,000 internships every year. The private sector have committed to me that they will deliver up to 50,000 internships every year. We want to see how we can grow this to 100,000 and make sure that we give a chance to many young people coming out of college, coming out of our universities, to practice what they have learned, either for a year or 2 years, acquire some experience, and find their way into employment and also into the market. Access to government procurement opportunities by young people, women, and persons living with disability. As I have said with clarity, that for a very long time, we invested a lot of resources in our human capital, and rightfully so. This year, we have committed 628 billion Kenya shillings for the education of the people of Kenya. That is huge resources. We are deploying additional resources in the hiring of additional teachers. We're deploying additional resources in making sure that we deliver on our TVET program. We are almost doubling resources that will go to our university education, and we are pulling all our universities from being saddled with debt because of the old funding model. But different from the past, this year, we not only have a program on education and training, we also this year have a program on what happens when our children come out of college, come out of school, and come out of our universities. That's why we have clarity on how we are going to create jobs this year. We have clarity that we are going to have a clear plan on how to create jobs. And I expect that every ministry and every department will be aligned, whether it is our housing plan to create 1 million jobs, whether it is our digital space and digital jobs and Ajira and ICT hubs to create digital jobs, whether it is the Ministry of Labor working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and all other departments that work with human capital development in that space for our foreign employment opportunities, targeting another 1 million or so jobs. That whole ecosystem is now going to be part of what we must deliver as government. We must deliver the jobs as much as we are delivering on education and training. We are also going to work on the project and program of local content. As you've all seen, we've talked about Build Kenya, Buy Kenya, Build Kenya. We've talked about local content. For the first time in this year's finance bill, we are making fiscal intervention to make sure that we expand our manufacturing as a percentage of GDP in our country by deliberately discouraging imports that we can produce locally, whether it is cement, whether it is steel, whether it is furniture, whether it is fish, and all the other things that we've always imported when we can manufacture them locally using local talent, local expertise, local resources, and building our local manufacturing and industrial capacity. I am very proud that we are now moving in that direction as part of what we must do. As I mentioned before, many Kenyans have been disappointed by the endless cycles of unfulfilled pledges. Because of our long history of white elephant projects and corruption scandals, some see these commitments as vendor-driven kickback rackets, disguised conspiracies to embezzle public funds. There are people who are listening to us out there. When they hear we are going to do KIPES, County Aggregation Industrial Parks, they hear we are going to do markets, we are going to build this road, we are going to deliver on that dam, they think it's an opportunity for them to go and steal public money. I want to tell you in broad daylight, eyeball to eyeball, that will not happen. Please, good people. Yes. I have had a heart-to-heart discussion with my cabinet. I want to do the same with the rest of the government bureaucracy from PSS down to directors. It will not be business as usual. I made a commitment to the people of Kenya that there will be no money to steal. There is only money to deliver on the programs, on the projects, on the aspirations of the people of Kenya. A political culture of poor promise-keeping, as well as endemic corruption, has done significant damage to our social fabric by eroding trust in government and widening the rift that separates citizens' aspirations from government policy. We cannot afford to wait and see where this road may lead, because it has already brought us to a very terrible place. It is time that this comes to an end once and for all. And I promise you, it will come to an end. For those who have engaged in corruption incorrigibly. Because I know, for example, the people in the procurement space. There was one lady in one of the roads departments, corrupt to the core, to the extent that she could not be transferred by anybody, even by the minister, because if she was transferred, she will go to court, by the court process, and make sure that she's returned. That is the kind of chronic where corruption has taken us. I hope Mr. Kipchumba Murkomen and Bwana Mbogwa, I hope that lady no longer works for the government of Kenya. Yeah. We cannot have such. There are people who have made government offices their private property. You try to transfer them elsewhere, they go to court, they go to some agency, you find them back. It will not happen. Yeah? Those kind of things, we must put them behind us. We are servants of the people of Kenya. We are not their masters. And we serve at the pleasure of the people of Kenya. We don't serve at their mercy. So it's going to be different. It is going to be different. I promise you it's going to be different. And it's not going to be business as usual. And we are not going to wait until public money is lost. The moment there is signs that you have intentions of doing something, we will deal with you firmly and summarily. And because we have enough people in Kenya who can do these jobs. Under our new bold vision of radical transformation, we must simultaneously implement policies, programs, and projects to achieve inclusive growth, and at the same time undertake robust measures to eradicate corruption, wastage, and inefficiency. I have given my solemn undertaking to protect public resources during my term in office. I shall be held to account for the good performance of our country, delivery of our commitments, and the stewardship of public resources. I intend, by all means, to keep a good account of each of these mandates. I ask for your assistance, and all of us to commit to make sure that we don't disappoint the people of Kenya. In order to do this, I shall hold every officer serving in government, beginning with you people seated here, to account for both their performance in service delivery and stewardship of public resources. I shall deal with cases of negligence, misappropriation, embezzlement, theft, or other misconduct or corruption in relation to public resources summarily and decisively. You are hereby duly notified. I have high expectations of you because I am confident that by now you are familiar with the workings of government, accustomed with our work rate, and fully aware of our intention to implement all our commitments. I speak to many of you on phone. Many times I call you to my office, we interact in different places. I ask you questions, you know that, on programs, on projects. And I find that many of you, the people I speak to, don't even know what is going on in your ministries or departments. You have very scanty information. the moment I know more than you in your ministry, then you must begin to understand that something is very wrong. Because by constitution, you are supposed to advise me. Explain to me how you are going to advise me if you have less information than I do. Who is going to be advising who? I call many PSs. You ask them what's going on here. They have no clue. And this is your department. That is the job that you have. You are not a messenger. You are not a security person. You are not a photographer. You are not a watchman. You are the PS or the minister. And the job of the minister and the PS, you don't know. Or you don't have information. How do you run a ministry or a department or a parastatal if you have no information? That is the highest level of incompetence. So please, take time, read. There's a lot of literature on your desks. There's a lot of briefs from departments. There are a lot of briefs from all manner of places. Read. I take time myself to read, because it's the only way you can have the correct information for you to be able to make the right decisions. You can never, I promise you, you can never make the right decisions if you do not have the correct information. It will all be a game of guesswork. Get as much. We have many good officers. They send us briefs to our desks. But because of whatever reason, people don't want to read. They don't want to understand what's going on in their state departments or ministries or where they're supposed to be doing. So please, let me ask you, I get a lot of feedback from the public. For example, I was in Kwale, and I stopped in Likoni, and I was talking to the public, and one of them was asking me, Mr. President, we haven't quite understood how the Hustler Fund Phase 2 is working. How do we form the groups? And I remember I called CS Chelugui. I didn't find him, so I called his PS, and I found her, and I explained to her, I told her, look, the public is not understanding this. Did I call you or not on Sunday? I told you this is what the public is saying. Please do more sensitization on Hustler Fund Phase 2. Sindio? So, feedback, and it's not because of any, we have to perform. We have to perform. So when you hear my deputy saying, find time, travel and see the people who have hired us, go to different parts of Kenya so that you can get feedback from the public, and on and on and on and on. So this is what we must all, when we talk about citizen-centric, it is ultimately the citizens we are serving. As I have said, I wish all of you, and I have said this with clarity, you have my goodwill. Always, I am always available to any minister, to any PS, if they are not sure of what they are supposed to do. I have instructed the head of public service to be available. My economic team is here. I want them to stand up if they are here this morning. members of my team, they are here. Simameni, I'm sure, I think some of them got late also. They should know better. So I have deployed a whole team of almost 10 people to assist every state department, every ministry. Whenever things are not clear, they are not aligned, you are not sure what our commitment is, they are ready every day with an appointment. You will go through with them. If it is necessary, I normally come in there and we go through the numbers together, we go through the interventions together, we look at how best to deliver, because we are one team. You know, we are one team. And my economic team is not interested in running any ministry. And I have explained this to ministers. They are not interested. They are not in competition with anybody. They just want to assist you to succeed, because in your success is our collective success. And in our collective success is the success of our country. All of us must work together. I expect that the other arms of government will work with us in a collaborative manner. Everybody and every arm of government is discharging their responsibility. We will be supportive of the other arms of government to the extent that we can, within the provisions of the law. I remember on my first day on the swearing in into office, I made a commitment that our country is going to be anchored on the rule of law. That rule of law is going to be front and center. And that is why we got rid of the culture of extrajudicial killing. And we disbanded the notorious criminal gang that was in the police that presided over those criminal activities. And I intend that the country will continue in that trajectory of the rule of law. I dare say that we did not get rid of extrajudicial killings that caused the loss of close to 200 Kenyans, that ended up in Yala River, that ended up in Tana River, that ended up in Abadeas, so that we can entertain another culture of impunity, of past, present, and other leaders using violence as a currency for politics in Kenya, and in so doing, occasioning the loss of life of other citizens. That cannot be. The same way we said no to extrajudicial killings, we have said no to violence as a means of politics in Kenya. We can discuss all other matters, but violence must not be in the equation of our politics as a country. And so, tuendelee namna hiyo, tuko pamoja kabisa. Mimi nawatakia heri sisi wote tulio hapa. Vile nilisema pale mbeleni, tuko na nafasi mzuri sana kama taifa kubadilisha taifa letu la Kenya. Na sisi tulio hapa kama viongozi wa serikali kwa sasa, tuko na jukumu la kihistoria ya kubadilisha Kenya. Ndio tumesema katika mpango wetu tuwe na mpango kamili ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba tuko na food security, tunazalisha chakula. Na mimi nawashukuru wakulima wa taifa letu la Kenya, ni wazalendo wa ajabu. Mwaka huu kazi wakulima wamefanya haijawahi kuonekana. Ndio tuzalishe chakula. We can actually double our food production in Kenya and eliminate the shame of hunger in Kenya. Vile vile tuko na mpango kamili, mpango mzima wa kuzalisha ajira katika taifa letu la Kenya kupitia mpango wa housing, kupitia mpango wa digital jobs, mipango mingine ya kuzalisha ajira na vile vile kukuza uchumi wa taifa letu la Kenya. Ndio tuongeze mapato, tuondoe umaskini. That plan, we have a historic moment to achieve it. And I am trusting you as the senior most team to provide leadership, working of course with our development partners and all the other good people that are working with us. I therefore remind you to pursue and maintain the highest professional standards and observe the principles and values of public service under Article 232(1) of the Constitution. I also encourage you to keep a copy of this performance contract in sight at all times to anchor your reflections and to focus your intentions and your actions so that we can all have a good account of ourselves a year from today. I wish you success in your work, good people, and look forward to presiding over the release of the results of your performance at the end of this financial year. Asanteni sana. Thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless our great country, Kenya. Asanteni sana. Thank you.
Let us all rise and finish with the national anthem. Thank you, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We've come to the end of this session. Do have yourselves a wonderful afternoon.